We're hanging out with Kevin J. DeBruin. Kevin is an actual former NASA rocket scientist. Now he works full-time as a space educator. He was also formerly a space systems engineer at the Aerospace Corporation. And as I mentioned before, a systems engineer with NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. So he educates about science, but he does it in a fun and easy way that students can understand. He also does this while showcasing an active and healthy lifestyle, grit, and determination, and serves as a really good role model for others. So Kevin is a two-time American Ninja Warrior. He's a certified personal trainer, and he's also an Eagle Scout. So Kevin, it's so awesome to have you joining us live today. We've got some great classrooms joining us from across North America, and we're looking forward to getting to know you a little better.
Awesome. Thank you for the intro, Joe. Really appreciate it. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I know you guys are coming from all over North America. We've got Ontario, British Columbia, and Jersey are all supposed to be tuning in. So I'm excited to be able to teach all of you from my own home here in Los Angeles. So I am going to get into it. I'm going to show you some slides, some videos, some pictures, and talk about some of the missions that I was working on and what's really exciting about the space exploration to the location where I was headed. And then tell you a little bit about how I got into NASA. Now, if you're interested and you want to work on spaceships, you want to be a scientist or an engineer, I'm going to share a little bit of my path that got me in there and give you an example of one avenue that could help you get to that place. So I am going to now share my desktop with you. So you're going to first see you. And now let's go into here. All right, can I get a thumbs up if you see the slides? You see mountains and buildings. Fantastic. All right, so what we see here, this is NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. See this blue building here with some windows? That is the building that most of us engineers work in on designing the mission I'm talking to you about today for Europa. That's where my office was. We've got beautiful landscape here in sunny California, and we can have our meetings outside all year long. So I worked there for 3.5 years, and then I moved over to another company to work on some Earth orbiting spacecrafts with the government, and now I teach about space all the time. So this is who I am. So I'm literally a rocket scientist. It is my most favorite thing that I get to say because I've wanted this ever since I was a little kid. My official title at NASA was a systems engineer. So that means my job is to integrate the spacecraft, which that means if the spacecraft is a puzzle, I have to make sure it all fits together correctly, knowing how one piece changes, how that's going to ripple through and affect all of the other pieces. So I need to know everything about it. And I'm a two-time American Ninja Warrior. I'm going to be competing or hoping to compete again next year. If you watch that TV show, you can tune in and see me hopefully get up the warp wall and hit a buzzer and not fall in the water and get cold. And I'm also an Eagle Scout. So I like to highlight that because that's something that really helps me out in getting jobs, scholarships, applications for college and graduate school, and even getting my job at NASA. I achieved the rank of Eagle Scout, and it shows that you have leadership and communication skills, and you're able to follow through with something and get the highest achievement in that organization. So I recommend definitely doing any type of community service or leadership or organizations that you can give back to the community. And then up here, I just put my Instagram at Kevin J. DeBruin because I am a space educator now. If you like learning about space, if you have an Instagram, every single day I am talking about something new, whether it's a moon, a planet, nebulas, stars, black holes, the magnetic field around Earth. Where does space even start? You can find all of that on there, and we can continue learning after today's session. So what got me into space? I like to share this. So this is my motivation. It's the movie October Sky, and I saw it when I was 10 years old. So right around your age, and a little bit younger, and I was like, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I saw this movie about this guy. It's based on a real story. You can see him there. Mr. Homer Hickam Jr. started building rockets because he saw a satellite go across the night sky and became a NASA engineer training astronauts. I thought this was the coolest thing at 10 years old, and I knew that I wanted to design spaceships for NASA. But bring this up as well because sometimes homework gets really hard, or like you don't have a test result that comes your way. Maybe you got a D, a C, a B, or not as good of an A as you wanted. You're like, man, this is hard. So whenever I got like, down on myself or not super enthused about my coursework and all my studies, I would rewatch this movie or read the book that he wrote to remind me of why I want to do this in the first place. Kind of, get my head above the clouds, look around and see, oh yeah, these are all the amazing things that I get to do. I just have to put in this work to get there. So it wasn't that long ago, actually, that I was sitting in your seats. So now we're supposed to have like one 5th grade class, some 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and then a freshman in high school class, 9th grade. So I was not that long ago, I was sitting in your exact seats. So I like to show you that, hey, when I was sitting in 6th grade, that's what I look like right there. 7th grade, 8th grade, and then I grew up, I went on to high school. There was me as a freshman if we got our high schoolers in here. And then I went on to college. I graduated high school, went and got my bachelor's in mechanical engineering, and then went on to graduate school at Georgia Tech and got a master's in aerospace engineering. So that picture there with me in the Georgia Tech gown is me graduating the 19th grade. It took a while, to get into advanced degrees, but if you want to work in space exploration, getting an advanced degree, so a master's degree or a PhD, is very important. It will really help you develop the skills and acquire the education necessary to do the things that we do, which is exploring the unknown, doing things that have never been done before. So let's start talking about that, right? Enough about me. Let's look at the solar system. We have 8 planets. Pluto is not a planet anymore. It's a dwarf planet. But here we've got Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. So what I focused on primarily at NASA was Jupiter. So Jupiter and its moon Europa. If you haven't heard of Europa, totally cool. You're going to learn all about it today. So here's our solar system, and let's bring up Jupiter. So Jupiter has about 72 moons that we know about right now. Saturn just beat it out. We found 20 new moons around Saturn to bring the count to around 82 confirmed moons. So there's so many moons out in the solar system. They, I think, are more interesting than the planets themselves. So Jupiter's got 60 or 72, but here are the 4 biggest ones. We've got Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. So Io is the most volcanically active body in our solar system, which means there's volcanoes erupting all the time, sulfurs falling down and lava moving all around this moon, sorry about that. Europa, we're gonna get to that one a little bit more detailed in a second. Ganymede, it is the largest moon in our solar system. It is bigger than the planet Mercury. So if Ganymede wasn't around Jupiter, it could be its own planet. Now we have Callisto. You see all those little white dots on Callisto? So we kind of see the same things on our moon, right? We have these craters, these dark spots, these light spots. So Callisto has the most craters of any rocky body in our solar system. And that tells us it's been around longer than anything else. Because the longer you're here, the more time there is for stuff to run into you and cause these craters. So we believe it's the oldest thing in our solar system. Now Europa. This is where the cool stuff happens. So it kind of looks like a blue marble, right? With some red stuff on it. It is about the size of our moon, but we believe it has 2 to 3 times as much water as all of Earth, right? How does that happen? Well, on Earth, our oceans are on average about 3.5 kilometers deep. On Europa, we believe it's a global ocean that's around 100 kilometers deep. So we got this thick ice shell, it's like an ice crust, and the inside a liquid water ocean, and then a rocky core. Essentially, it's like a ball of water that's frozen on the outside, which is why it has so much more water than Earth. What's the best thing about Europa? We think it has the ingredients for life. That's right, we think that Europa is the best place to find aliens in our solar system. But why? So life as we know it, you need 3 things. You need water. Where we find water on Earth, we find life. So Europa is a big ball of water out there, so we can check that box. We need chemistry. We need the building blocks of life, the things we find in rocks. We need carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur. Combining those elements into the right molecules is what builds life. We are carbon-based life forms. Put that all together, we believe that those ingredients are out there. Now, energy. We need a way to power life. So here on Earth, we got this big bright ball in the sky that helps our plants. It comes down, gives light, and plants turn that light into energy with photosynthesis, helps run their metabolism. But Jupiter is 5 times further away than Earth is from the sun. So the sun's light isn't strong enough to do photosynthesis out there. We have a hard time creating big enough solar panels for our spacecrafts to just have enough power for them to operate way out there. So what we have is, we had those 72 moons around Jupiter. We saw the big 4 ones. Well, they like to push and play on each other. So I want everyone to make a fist and hold it up. Everybody make a fist? Okay, so I want you to open that fist and close it. Open it and close it. Open it and close it. So that is what's going on at Europa. It's getting bigger and then it's getting smaller because the other moons are pulling on it and pushing on it. So what happens then is rub your hands together like this. Rub them together. What do you feel? It's getting warm. That friction creates heat. And that heat can lead to things like we see here on Earth, or this bottom right picture. Those look like underwater volcanoes. They're hydrothermal vents, or like chimneys that release smoke, because all that energy, that friction, turns into heat to create these things which release salts and minerals into that ocean. So this is an actual image from on Earth, from about 10 kilometers deep in our ocean. That's like the deepest point in the Challenger Deep of the Marianas Trench. And we find life down there. Sunlight can't get that far down. It only can get about 200 meters down into the ocean, and then it's completely black. But we find hairy snails and like see-through fish that are down living that deep. And they take this chemical energy and use it for their metabolism. It's called chemosynthesis. So the plants use photosynthesis. These things down here use chemosynthesis. And we believe that that is going down on the surface floor, the ocean floor of Europa. So with that water chemistry and energy, we are so excited from what we've been learning over the years to get a dedicated spacecraft out there to actually investigate this closer with new instruments, new knowledge, to gain so much more data to see if Europa is this place that we think it is, to confirm our hypotheses. So what we're going to do, I'm going to jump over that. We are going to send this spacecraft right here, the Europa Clipper. So I worked on this while I was in graduate school at Georgia Tech, and then also at NASA JPL. So we're right in the middle of designing this. We're finishing up all the designs and the computers, and then now we're about to start moving into actually building it together with the hardware. So it is going to launch in 2023. So we got a couple years to put this thing together and finish testing it all, and then launch it over to Jupiter. And it's going to travel anywhere between 2.5 to 7 years. It depends if NASA can get their new rocket, the Space Launch System, up and running in time, because it's so much more powerful than our current rockets. If we can jump aboard that one, that's like hopping in a sports car and flying off to Jupiter. Otherwise, we got to take the old minivan, and it's going to take us a little bit longer to get out there. But once we get out to Europa, we are going to fly around it, fly by it. So on the left, we see the path of the spacecraft over the course of 2.5 years. It's going to orbit Jupiter, but fly by Europa about 42 to 43 times. On the right-hand side, we see Europa with all of those lines is where our spacecraft is going to fly by. Essentially, getting global coverage is what we call it. These series of 42 flybys are going to cover almost every single aspect of the moon, so it's like we're orbiting it. You might ask, well, why don't we just orbit Europa, right? Wouldn't that be easier? Potentially, but the radiation environment at Jupiter is crazy. So if we can get away from Jupiter for a little bit, away from Europa, which is close to Jupiter, and like hang out in the normal radiation of space, and then just jump in for like 10 hours to collect all this data in high radiation, it helps save our spacecraft electronics. So each time we fly by Europa and go really close to it, this is what it looks like. So these different color bars turning on are different science instruments that we use. So when it comes in really close, we start taking pictures. This blue and pink going back and forth are taking high resolution images so that we can potentially land on the surface in the future. And then as we get further away, we start turning things off because we're too far away to detect anything useful for us. We start turning things on at about 66,000 kilometers from Europa. Trying to replay that video for you so we can see it again. So we're about 66,000 kilometers away, and then we come in, and sometimes we are coming within 25 kilometers of the surface of Europa. We're coming in super close. Now, we continue through here. This entire thing that we're seeing here is about 10 hours long. After this, it takes about 14 days for us to come back around and do it again. During those 14 days, we're sending stuff back to Earth. We're sending the data using our big antenna right there in the middle to send data back to Earth. And then we're also pointing our solar panels towards the sun to recharge, to get us back to a good state of health in our batteries. So those solar panels are huge, they're ginormous, because the sun is almost 500 million miles away. For us, the sun is about 93 million miles away, and for Jupiter, it's almost 500 million miles. So we're gonna do that about 42 times over the course of 2.5 years to gain more information about Europa and let us know if everything that we're thinking is true. And those high resolution images potentially could help us land something like this on the surface. This is another mission I worked on, Europa Lander. It's not fully funded. It probably won't happen anymore because of shifting in the administration and fundings and stuff. So I've worked on a lot of missions that don't actually go forward because we do hundreds of mission ideas, and then the best ones that fit within our science questions are the ones that go forward. So how did I get to NASA? So a little bit of a book plug. I just published this book. It is called To NASA and Beyond, and it talks about how I got into NASA. You can get it on tonasaandbeyond.com or Amazon. You don't have to buy the book. I'm going to tell you what's in it right now. So you're going into high school, or you are in high school. I took all of my math courses possible, and that was during the summer too, so I could take calculus my senior year. I did every single technical elective, machine shop, wood shop, anything with computers and trying to build stuff. I was also taking as many college classes as I could in high school so that I could get college credit early on. So then I wanted to get into NASA. So I failed a whole lot, but I never gave up. So it took me 3 years and over 150 applications to NASA before my first NASA internship. But I got one. It worked out. And then Georgia Tech denied my admission to graduate school, but I really wanted to go there, and eventually I got accepted and they paid for my school. And then NASA JPL didn't hire me after 3 rounds of interviews. But eventually, after 35 more interviews during a summer internship I was able to get, they hired me as a full-time engineer. So it's not to say everybody has a hard time to get into NASA. It's not impossible. Some people have it a lot easier. But I'd like to share this story to show you that if you run into obstacles, you can still make it happen if you work hard and sacrifice and really believe you can do it. Don't give up. You don't have to give up. You just got to find another way. So NASA wants you. We want every single one of you to go on to study, get a degree in science, technology, engineering, math, or even business or arts, because someone needs to make these posters. Someone needs to help us communicate our information to the public. We also need lawyers, people to help us figure out the politics and the laws between different nations and different government organizations, between private industry. So whatever you find interesting, you can apply that within NASA. We hire everybody. Now, most of us, like 75 to 80%, are scientists, engineers, and technologists, but we have positions for everybody. So if you like space, but you don't like math, that's cool. We can find a place for you, whatever you're passionate about within space. So thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you tuning in. I'm going to open it up for some Q&As now. Throw up my Instagram there again at Kevin J. DeBruin if you want to learn more about space. and interact with me. Send me a message. We can get to know each other, hang out, chat, and talk about all things space.